tell him what you just told me. Because I don't know if you've noticed that, Commissioner, but it's not a good place to be sometimes.
Yeah, we can include that as an agenda item for the next traffic committee meeting. We'll gather up all the data that we have available, and then we can present it at the next traffic committee meeting, and then we can see the collisions that have been reported. If there's, well, what's the primary collision factor? See if there's any patterns, and then if there's any mitigation measures that we can do to resolve those issues. So we could definitely do that. Maybe you can mention it during the live streaming, so we could do it on a public broadcast, and then we'll include it as a agenda item for the next meeting. Deputy Coleman, do you have any thoughts on that intersection? Any commentary at all?
No, I mean, I've been told the same situation with the speed being the primary factor for most of the accidents right there, because all of the hills kind of join at that one intersection, all downhill. But recently we've really been hitting Alicia as far as speed enforcement very hard, especially coming into the city, and then usually we'll hit, what's the street before that? Via Linda, I think is it made the main major intersection prior to Geronimo.
Yeah. Well, it depends which direction you're coming from. You have Via Fabricante on one side and Via Linda on the other. Via Linda would be on the eastern side.
Yeah, so we work Via Linda primarily in the morning when people are leaving, Rancho Santa Margarita, different parts of Mission Viejo. We're all going down the major vein of Alicia. So we'll usually work that early morning till it starts to calm down, and then we'll head up to Alicia and Montebello for everybody coming into the city, but there's not really a good spot to sit for eastbound traffic near Geronimo.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and Dave, this is the type of comment we would be looking for in the update section. So that's the last item on the agenda. So bring it up then, and we will put it on our agenda for next time.
Yeah.
Okay, I hear that we are live. So are we ready to go?
Yep, I'm ready when you are. Just remind everyone to mute themselves when you're not speaking, because it's there's some feedback in the background, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be Feedback City in here, and I got headphones on, so it's going to be extra loud for me. And Philip, too, it looks like. All right, so we can go ahead and call to order the traffic committee for the city of Mission Viejo for Monday, September 21st. This is an opportunity for two members of the Planning and Transportation Commission to discuss various traffic and transportation related items as brought to us by members of the public, usually through an email or another means of contacting us about various traffic concerns. We can do some introductions real quick. Paul, since you're new here, I'll just give you the heads up. We'll go through do city staff and then the commissioners, and then you'll be the last in our list just to do introductions, and then we'll head off to our agenda items after that. So I'm Brett Kennedy. I'm the transportation analyst for the city of Mission Viejo.
I'm Philip Notiyama. I'm the traffic engineer for the city of Mission Viejo.
Rich Schlesinger, the city engineer.
Cameron Nauerhays, planning commissioner, transformation committee.
Dave Leknes, planning commissioner.
And Deputy Paul Coleman, Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Oh. All right, excellent. So the first item on our agenda for today is the approval of the July 20th committee minutes. Have our commissioners been able to review those, and are there any comments, or do we want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve last minutes.
I second that motion.
All right, then item number 1, the minutes are approved. And, normally when we have, we're having the meetings in person, we go through the order of the agenda on who's based on the most people there to speak on it. Since this is an online meeting, we're just going to go straight down the agenda list. So that brings us to item number 2, which is the review of pedestrian safety at the intersection of La Paz Road at Olympiad and Felipe. So that's my item to present. So let me see about sharing my screen here. And all right, here we go. Here's our agenda and our minutes. So here we are. Okay. This item is brought to us at the request of a resident who feels that there is a pedestrian safety issue at the intersection of La Paz Road where it meets Olympiad and Felipe. This is on the far eastern end of town. Here you can see a location aerial photo of the intersection we're going to be looking at. And so here's specifically what we're going to be considering here is the traffic signal has what's called a permissive left turn here. So if there are pedestrians in this northerly crosswalk here, any vehicle coming up La Paz wanting to make a left turn to go north on Olympiad is going to have to yield to any pedestrians there. And based on this request for review of pedestrian safety here, we do have one sign that's available to us. This turning vehicles yield to pedestrians sign. This is not a new request for the city. We already have these types of signs existing at 2 locations in town. One is at the intersection of Alicia and Via Fabricante, and the other is at Geronimo and Acero, where we have similar situations.
Hey, Brett, do you mind minimizing your screen a little bit so they could see the whole exhibit? It's a little bit hard to see the entire thing.
Minimizing my screen. Okay,
The viewing size. Yeah.
Yeah, it is covered with various controls for the WebEx, but I will do my best. The more I zoom in, you can see better horizontally, but you lose some of the vertical clearance of what.
No, I meant the other way. Zoom out.
Oh, zoom out.
Yeah.
Okay. How's this? Is this better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
All right. So, looking at our the collision history at this location for the last 3 years, because that's our typical time frame we look at, is so we looked at 2017, 2018, and 2019. Again, because the 2020 data is not complete yet, we haven't finished the year yet. We had no collisions in 2019. In 2018, there was one collision that was not PED related. I believe the collision was in the northbound lane south of the intersection. It was a rear end type collision. And then in 2017, there were no collisions at this location. Also, just to get a feel for how much traffic is in the area, on a typical day, La Paz Road carries about 8,300 vehicles a day. And Olympiad and Felipe are in the about 16,000 vehicles a day. We also have turning movement counts, where from our last traffic signal synchronization study that we did out here, it found that the peak hour in the morning is from 7:30 in the morning until 8:30. In that hour, 142 vehicles made that eastbound left turn, and no PEDs were observed crossing the street in that time frame. The midday peak is from 12:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. We had 158 vehicles make an eastbound left turn, and again, no PEDs were observed on the northern leg. And our last observation was for the PM peak, 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. 105 vehicles making the eastbound left turn, and again, no pedestrians were observed in the northerly leg crosswalk at that time. That's not to say that the crosswalk never gets used, because we do look at about a 2-hour frame for each of those time periods, and there were pedestrians in there, but it's not in that absolute peak period time. Also, maybe on the previous slide, you can see there are some adjacent baseball fields to the north and south, and that can generate some pedestrian activity out here that may not occur during traditional peak vehicular travel times. So we have a few photos of the intersection. This is the approach coming from La Paz Road, approaching the intersection. And if you can maybe see on your exhibits, if you haven't downloaded at home, the traffic signal is only showing circular ball indications, and that's again to emphasize that that's a permissive left turn, that the vehicles don't have the right of way and they have to yield to any pedestrians in the crosswalk. And then we have the balance of the photos that just show lane configuration and each of the different approaches to the intersection. And finally, a photo of the northerly crosswalk itself. Finally, this is the text of the original request. It's basically summarized in the report so far that well, I'll just read it here. As a pedestrian crossing Olympiad Felipe in the crosswalk to the north of La Paz, I have been nearly hit multiple times by drivers turning left off of La Paz Road onto Olympiad. In fact, I have never crossed here without an issue with cars taking right of way or nearly hitting me or my dogs. I feel it would be much safer for pedestrians if, when the pedestrian crosswalk is active and allowing pedestrians to cross, the light for the left-hand turn onto Olympiad should remain red. Pedestrians have the right of way, but no matter what time of day you are there, the left-hand turning driver will always turn before the pedestrian has a chance to get into the crosswalk. Many times there are so many left-hand turn cars, the pedestrian doesn't have time to safely cross the street. I have also been in situations where I am already in the crosswalk and a driver coming up La Paz does not take time to see if there is someone in the crosswalk and turns automatically because the light is green. I have literally jumped or sprinted out of the way of cars like these. This crosswalk is very unsafe. In fact, I would feel safer jaywalking further up the road than I would crossing at this crosswalk. So that concludes the report. Again, we have the option of putting up the turning vehicles yield to pedestrian signs at this location. That concludes my comment, so we can open it up to any commissioner questions at this time.
I don't have any questions.
Dave, if you have a comment, you are going to need to unmute your microphone.
No comment.
Okay, then. Do we have a motion then?
Based on the information provided and the data that you've presented, I don't see a need for any additional signage at this point. I drive that route about 5 days a week, and I've never seen firsthand any pedestrians in and around there. So for just really a lack of evidence and lack of information, I hate putting signs up where they're not needed. So I would make a motion to leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I'll second that. I agree. I drive through that intersection almost every day, and I've never seen an issue and never seen a pedestrian, and so I agree 100%.
All right. I have in my notes that the motion is to deny the request. So if there are no further comments, we can move on to item number 3, which is marked crosswalk and signage on Valparaiso Drive at Paulo Lane, and that's going to be Philip's item to present.
All right. I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see that screen? Yes? Okay. All right. So this is at the intersection of Valparaiso Drive and Paulo Lane. If you're near Alicia and Trabuco, you go south on Trabuco and then you enter the neighborhood, and that's how you get to Valparaiso and Palo Lane. This intersection is adjacent to Christopher Park, where we had renovations at the park very recently. I don't know if you recall, a couple of months ago, we had pictures of the park for another parking restriction request on the opposite end. But this request here is because of the new additions to the park. I guess they're anticipating more pedestrian traffic, and they're asking for a marked crosswalk. So that's two painted lines and some signage. So this intersection is in a residential neighborhood. It's at 25 miles per hour in each street. We don't have any traffic volume data available because we don't traditionally do traffic counts on residential streets. I did look up the collision history in the past 3 years, 2017, 2018, 2019, and there weren't any reported collisions at that intersection. And this is an aerial photo of the site. Again, this is Christopher Park, and this is the intersection that's in question within that yellow circle. As you can see, it's within a residential community. There's houses on both sides, and it's a residential park where we just completed renovations. This is a street view photo. This first photo is when you're going up Palo Lane. As you can see, there's no traffic control and there's no marked crosswalk here. This is where the T intersection ends. Directly across from the intersection is the entrance to Christopher Park, one of 3 entrances. And then, so they're asking for a marked crosswalk at the intersection. And looking at this first photo, we can't put it on the right side because it aligns with a residential driveway. So we would have to put the crosswalk on the left side where the truck is located in this photo. That's where we would put marked crosswalk and signage. The bottom photo, now I'm taking it on Valparaiso, on the opposite end. The park is on the left, and then Palo Lane is on the right. So the marked crosswalk would be right where the white truck is, and it's going to meet with the curb on the other end of the street. And then this top photo is coming from the other end of Valparaiso. This photo shows the park on the right, and then Palo Lane on the left. And then again, the marked crosswalk would be located where the white truck is located. And then this bottom photo shows I'm standing on each end of the curbs where the marked crosswalk would be located. So it's where the trailer of that white truck would be. That's where it would start and would meet with the crosswalk on the opposite end. So this bottom picture on the right is where it would meet for that crosswalk. We did create a proposed exhibit. So this is a zoomed in aerial where we would place the marked crosswalk. We'd have 2 white lines, and then there would be 1 sign on each side that would say, it would be a pedestrian symbol. And then there's, that's where the yellow dots are located. The orange dot represents an advance warning sign. So it would be a pedestrian sign and a ahead sign combination. So there's 2 of those, 1 in each direction. This is an exhibit from the traffic manual. This is where I got the design from to conduct the marked crosswalk. It's not an apples to apples comparison. The traffic manual shows a marked crosswalk for multiple lanes and a median. So that's why there's a lot more signage here. And then they also create yield limit lines where the car is supposed to stop in advance of the crosswalk. I didn't think we needed that information on the residential street because it's a smaller street and there's only 1 lane in each direction. So I didn't add that, but this is basically where I got the design from. So this is the original request from the resident. Apologize for the bright green writing. That's how it turned out when I copied it. But the original request was from a gentleman, Mr. Koonsman. He wanted speed humps to slow down cars on Valparaiso. So that was his first option. The other option, he mentioned he wanted to look at putting a marked crosswalk. So he said, let's proceed forward with option 2. And that's what it says at the top. It says option 2 seems like the more realistic. So that's why we're showing the proposed marked crosswalk today. This is also from the same gentleman, Mr. Kunzman. This is the original request. As you can see here, he originally wanted speed humps, but he switched to marked crosswalk. After this request was posted online, we sent out postcard notifications to the neighborhood. We got 2 comments. And let me see here. This is the first comment that we received. It's from Miss Lorraine Shubin. We received that this morning or yesterday. And this is her comment. Thank you for notifying me of the upcoming traffic committee meeting to discuss adding crosswalk signage and striping on Palo Lane and Valparaiso. I have lived in this area for 30 years. I've never seen the need for this type of traffic control on the street. Please consider my reasons listed below before making a decision. When you stand at the corner of Palo Lane and Valparaiso, you have a clear and unobstructed view all the way up the street and all the way down the street, which makes it very safe for pedestrians to see any upcoming traffic before crossing the street. There are very few people who actually cross the street to go to Christopher Park. I live across the street from the park, and I can tell you that the majority of people going to the park drive to the park or walk down the street or enter from the 2 cul-de-sacs. My 2 children, who are now adults, were raised on Valparaiso, and there has never been any car danger on the street. The street does not feed from any busy street, and there are not many cars traveling on the street. So signage and striping may seem excessive. It concerns me that signage and striping may make the street appear busy to potential home buyers in the area, which will make property values go down. Thank you for reading my concerns. So that was the first comment from the resident. This is the second comment from Miss Jan Hubbard. Hello to the traffic committee. Due to the beautifully newly renovated Christopher Park, we have had an amazing attendance of families coming into the park each day. Wonderful to see and a tribute to the city and efforts on all the park and community public officials. Due to this movement of families coming to enjoy the park, it is a concern of the fast-moving cars up and down the street on Valparaiso Drive. With no signage, speed humps, or other encouragement to slow down and watch for children and families walking into the park, crossing Valparaiso is becoming a safety hazard. Our neighborhood's concerned for the safety of the children when crossing, but also saddened that there is no handicap curb help at any of the corners as well. Many moms, dads, and older family members need some assistance with strollers, bikes, wheelchairs to help negotiate the curbs and getting into the park. Please consider this additional help to be added to the conversation as you make your decisions. Living alongside this park for many years, we see that this has been a wonderful addition for the surrounding new and old families as they gather to share safe and fun days. Sincerely, and hope for the community and everyone to gather safely. Thank you. So that concludes my presentation and the 2 comments that we received. I'm prepared to answer any questions that you guys have about this intersection or this request.
Yeah, Philip, I got a question. Is the applicant or the person that's requested this here?
The virtual traffic committee meeting we have been conducting does not permit residents to be part of the live virtual meeting. They submit their comments at 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting, and then we read them aloud to you guys. So that's how we've been conducting our virtual traffic committee meeting.
Is all this paperwork, everything that you've gone over, that's available to us prior to right now, right?
All of the exhibits and the original request was posted online starting last Monday. The only new information that I read aloud is the last 2 comments those comments were received yesterday and today based on the postcard notifications that we sent.
Okay.
Here,
Okay.
here, can I jump in real quick? Just to clarify what our process is for the virtual traffic committee meetings is about a week before the meetings on our website, we put up the webpage that has all of our exhibits like you see us demonstrating here. And then the postcards and all the notifications we send out have that web address on it. So the residents have a week to go view the documents and then provide written comments to us based on the information we're presenting to you here. So in that sense, the written comments are to be taken in lieu of verbal comments that would be taken in a in-person meeting, just because we don't have the ability to take live verbal comments on this forum.
All right, I'm just going to throw this out. I would like to deny this. I mean, the park has been there since, I believe, 1972, maybe in 73 or something. And, the young lady that the first letter, she's lived there quite a few years. I would say deny. That's my thought. Thank you.
I concur with Commissioner Leckness. I am concerned on a side note about the handicap access. I don't know if the city has like a master plan of how that progresses throughout the city or if that's even true. Are those observations true in regards to access to the park?
The resident is correct. There aren't any curb ramps at that particular intersection today. When she provided me with those comments, I responded to her that our public services department manages curb ramps, and so any requests for new curb ramps would be based on, I believe it's funding availability and site-specific situations. So I forwarded the resident's email to our public services department, and they're going to follow up with her in regards to the curb ramp request. So I think we have included in our operating budget to construct, a handful of curb ramps per year. So I don't know where we're at with the number of curb ramp requests that they receive.
Okay,
and
seems
construct
reasonable
it.
since they just remodeled the park. It would seem reasonable to look at that. So I'm glad you forwarded the request, but I concur with Commissioner Leckness. I would deny the request.
Okay. Is there anybody else that have any comments? Deputy Coleman, you have any comments on this request at all? Nope.
Sure. I pass through here sometimes getting over to Montebello. I don't see too many people, frequenting the park myself, but not to say it's not a busy area, but I don't see a need for it either.
Okay. All right. So I'll move forward with that direction from the traffic committee to deny this request, and that'll be it for this agenda item.
All right, that means it is my turn again, and we are going to be looking at playground signs on Doria Avenue. So, Philip, are you done sharing your screen?
Yes.
All right.
Not sure how to remove sharing.
There's usually a big button that says stop sharing, and it moves around. All right.
There you go.
I got to, before you start, Brett, I got a question.
Okay.
When we get, let's see, how do I say this? Like we get letters or emails from people, we're not going to go through read. I know the last couple of times where there's been a lot of reading to us, like full letters. I mean, if they write a long letter, we hear the whole thing. It's read to us. Is there a way that we could not do that, or is there some legal thing that we have to have it read to us?
The way it works is we handle them like verbal comments, like public comments at one of your planning commission meetings, where the speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And so Philip and I have been looking at the comments ahead of time. And if we have something that looks like it's going to run up against that 3-minute timer, then we'll set that timer and cut off the readback of the comments at that 3-minute mark.
Okay, all right, I remember that. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so that's how we're trying to handle that.
Commissioner Leckness, I do have the option. What I could do, or Brett and I could do, we could just display the comment so that we're not reading over the comments, and then you could read it. Well, we'll display it for a few minutes maybe, and then after you've done reading it, we'll move on to the next comment, or we'll make our discussion about the comments, so we don't have to read it word for word, I guess. If you want.
I mean, on a couple of them, it's not a big deal, but I think if you got 10 letters, I mean, like, again, maybe last week or month it was a special thing, but, we had like about 2 hours of reading, and it's just not healthy.
Okay.
No, I can tell you right now, we don't have 2 hours of comments to read this time around. The feedback has been much more quiet on these items than we had
Okay, all
last
right,
time around.
no problem. All right, thank you.
In fact, I'll give you the spoiler alert right here. I have received 0 feedback from the community on any of the items that I will be presenting today. So these ones will be quiet. So for talking about quiet items, we have a request for playground warning signs on Doria Avenue. And this item comes to us from a resident who's concerned about traffic driving by on Doria Avenue in front of Doria Park. So we can see Doria Park here is outlined in the red dotted or orange dotted circle, and then you have the street that fronts it going by. So we have our proposed sign locations. So we have 3 of them. We have 2, one approaching on either direction on Doria Avenue. And then we also are considering placing one on Gloriosa Drive because that also tees in with Doria right at the park. So it would make sense to provide them with some advanced notification about the park ahead. We do our best to try to locate these signs on existing fixtures out in the roadway. So if there's an existing telespar with another sign that we can make them share, we'll do that. Or our favorite is to go after an existing streetlight pole and mount a sign on that so we can add signs without adding more poles to the area. So that's what we've tried to do in selecting these locations. You can see in the legend down at the bottom of the screen, there's a example of what the playground warning sign looks like. Our collision analysis for this area shows few collisions. There were none in 2019, none in 2018. In 2017, at the intersection of Doria and Aurora Way, which is down at this corner of the park right here, there was one broadside type collision. So that was between 2 vehicles that did not involve any pedestrians, much less any pedestrians that were trying to access the park. We have photo exhibits of the area that show on this top photo, the park is on the right-hand side here. This is going the other direction. The park is over on the left, and this is the intersection of Gloriosa right here. And then this is Gloriosa Drive as it approaches the park there, as you see in the background. The text of the original request will make Dave happy. It is nice and brief. It says there should be children at play signs and speed humps installed. People drive way above the speed limit, which makes it very dangerous for children using the city's park. So with that, one comment we should make is the resident has been provided with the packet, including the petition for asking for speed humps on Doria Avenue. So they are in the process of collecting signatures right there. I had a phone conversation with this resident the other day, and she noted that it is a bit challenging going door to door to all the neighbors because no one wants to answer their door for fear of any chances of the COVID-19 virus getting spread. So she's going to continue working on that, and then we will bring that item back when we get the petition and have done all of that appropriate work. So that concludes my report on this item, and if there are any questions, I am here to answer them.
Hey, Brad, I probably missed it. Where would you put a sign if you were to put a sign?
Okay, so here's the exhibit showing the signs. There are 3 dots indicating where the signs would be placed. So there's one on Doria to the north of the park, one on Doria to the south of the park, and one on Gloriosa to the east. I'm sorry, to the west of the park. So it would be on the approach from 3 different directions.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have any other questions.
Okay. Like Philip said earlier on his, we don't collect a lot more information on this area, like speed data or traffic volume data, because that's something we usually do on more on collectors and arterial streets, and on local residentials, you're looking at your typical standard 25 mile an hour speed limit, like we talked about at our last meeting, and the speed data. So there's no need for doing a speed survey to establish a speed limit out here.
Well, I mean, I'll throw this out there for now. Based on what was presented, I would deny the request. I'm interested though to see, if she goes out and does the survey for the speed humps, that if that ends up getting some popularity and gaining some ground, that may solve the problem in the neighborhood other than putting up signs. If the speed bump project fails, perhaps she can come back, at another time, or a resident come back another time and approach a different mechanism for her concerns. But there's really no other data there other than concerns. So I would deny it at this time. Yeah.
I agree with Commissioner Nauerhaus.
So just one question for clarification here. So it doesn't sound like this is like an all-out denial of the request, but maybe this is something that we need to revisit when we have the speed hump data, when we come back with our study on that, and we have the signatures in and everything.
Well, that's where my head's at. I mean, the speed hump, project is, that's a little bit bigger. It would have a tremendous impact on traffic in that neighborhood. It seems premature to put signs up without knowing the outcome of the speed bump or speed hump data. So I would say no right now. And however we work it, I mean, if she comes back with a speed hump project, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it and see if you still want signs in your neighborhood. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say, let's tell her to go get a speed hump survey. I mean, if she wants to do it, she does, but I don't think we should recommend it.
Well, she already has the packet to circulate.
Oh, okay,
So,
that's fine. That's fine.
So it sounds to me like we want to continue this until we come back with the speed hump packet and all of that other data, and then we can reconsider this at that time.
Sounds good.
Because that would basically put this on hold until we have the speed hump packet to consider as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. Otherwise, it just sounds like she's kind of spitballing ideas on her own, and I'd like to see collectively what the neighborhood thinks. And I think that's going to point us in the right direction.
Okay, then I'll have, instead of being a denial, we'll just say we'll continue until the speed hump packet comes back, and then we'll consider it as one package at that time. Do we agree? Yes?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right, I got my notes taken down, and that's going to conclude this item. So the next item is stop sign on Montilla at Papagayo, and this is going to be Philip's item to present. So I am going to stop sharing my screen and allow him to get started.
Okay, do you guys see my screen? Yes, okay. So this is a request for, the original request is for a stop sign on Montilla and Papagayo. So here's my vicinity map to show where it's located. If you're on Marguerite and Geronimo, you head west on Geronimo, it's about 3 lights up, and you're gonna hit Geronimo and Montilla. And then you go up Montilla, and that's a short street. It's a T intersection with Papagayo. So there's the red circle that shows Montilla and Papagayo. It's right next to El Dorado Park, and above El Dorado Park, there's Montevideo Elementary School. So that's how some of the students are getting to school. The speed limit on Montilla and Papagayo is 25 miles per hour. That's a residential speed limit. Again, we don't have any traffic data for this intersection because we don't traditionally do traffic counts for residential streets. There were 0 reported collisions in the past 3 years, 2017 to 2019. And then this is an aerial view of the intersection. So again, from Geronimo and Montilla, that's a signalized intersection. You enter Montilla Lane, and the first street is Papagayo. It's a T intersection there. It's uncontrolled today. There's the park to the north, and there's residential homes on both sides of the intersection. And then this is a street view photo. When you're coming into Montilla from Geronimo, they're asking for a stop sign right here, right in front of the T intersection before the park. Papagayo is on the street it's intersecting, and there's no traffic control on Papagayo as well. This top photo is if you're coming from, I guess from the west of Papagayo, you're going straight. Montilla is on the right. As you can see, there's no traffic control, and the park's on the left. There is a vertical curve here, so you're going downhill towards the intersection. And there's also a horizontal curve here. From the horizontal curve, it's actually has a T intersection with Montilla on the outside of the curb, so that helps your visibility as opposed to if it was on the inside of the horizontal curve. And then this bottom photo is when you're coming here. When you're coming from the other side, the opposite side of Papagayo, Montilla is on the left, and that's where the traffic control is being requested. This is my exhibit. I am proposing a yield sign in lieu of a stop sign. Again, the original request was a stop sign. However, I believe that this intersection will not meet the stop sign warrants. There's 3 warrants: it's traffic volume, sight distance, and collision history. And I'll expand on that later on another exhibit. But in lieu of a stop sign, if we were to add traffic control, it would be a yield sign is what I propose. There'd be a yield, pavement markings, and then a yield sign and a yield limit line for this intersection. So this is what the traffic manual shows for a yield limit line. There are these triangles. And then this is the traffic manual, what it says about the stop sign. So the very first thing when you ask for a stop sign, the first line says consideration should first be given to using less restrictive measures such as a yield sign. That's the first thing. And then the 3 criteria, all you have to do is meet one of them for a stop sign. The first one is vehicular traffic volumes on the through street should exceed 6,000 cars a day. That's a really high number for a residential street. We usually see, for residential streets between 500 to 2,000 vehicles per day. The warrant for a stop sign is 6,000. So it's a really high number. it probably won't meet it. The second warrant is a view. If there's a restriction on the view, again, there was a horizontal curve and the T intersection's on the outside of the curve, so it actually improves your visibility. And then the last warrant is for crash broadside collisions for a stop sign. There's supposed to be a pattern of 5 broadside collisions in a 12-month period, and there were 0 collisions at the intersection in the past 3 years. So that was my justification for a yield sign instead of a stop sign. This is the original request from the resident that started this whole thing. It was from Miss Jenna Gertzner, and she's the one that requested for in summary, it requested for a stop sign at the intersection of Montilla and Papagayo because of the park and the school generating traffic, and there's no traffic control at the intersection. When we posted this traffic committee item, we sent out postcard notification, and we did receive one resident comment today, and it was from Michael Gertzner. I don't know if they're related from the original applicant, but Mr. Gertzner said for item 5, the recommendation says that traffic volume does not justify a stop sign, only a yield. However, the proposed traffic control data box shows no data for traffic volume. Therefore, it appears no traffic study was conducted. During non-COVID times, the proximity of Montevideo School increases traffic volume during the morning drop-off times and pickup times. This is especially true since the proximity to Geronimo Road is how most vehicle traffic accesses the neighborhood. It appears that these conditions would warrant a traffic study to make a fully informed decision. So that concludes my presentation. Open to any questions that you guys have about the request and the comments and the exhibits.
I like your suggestion, Philip. I think, as always, your presentation is just really good. It really makes it simple to whether to do it or not. I mean, you give examples of how it's not going to fly and what the rules are, and I really like that. I think the yield thing sounds great. I would be in favor of that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Those weird looking teeth things, is that our only option for the manual?
Yes. This is what the manual is currently recommending for yield line layouts. As its current version. We have some older yield lines that are just straight, but that was before the design manual changed. I know it does look a little funny. I may have exaggerated the size of these triangles on this picture, but we do have some of these existing out there today.
It looks like you're driving into like an amusement park or something, like these big like yield. You're gonna die, yield. No, I'm down with it. I would normally say no based on everything, but that school and that park under normal non-COVID circumstances, tons of kids in that area. All my little leaguers are actually live on Juanino and some of those streets, and I know it's a very active neighborhood. So anything we can get to slow people down or attempt to slow people down, I think is prudent. So I would support Commissioner Leckness's motion for that.
Okay, thank you for that. Did anybody else have any comments? Deputy Coleman, no comments? All right. Rich, you guys have any comments? No.
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So that concludes my presentation. So we'll go ahead and proceed forward with the construction of the yield sign and the yield limit line and the yield stencil. Thank you. All right, and I'm going to stop sharing.
All right, fantastic. Okay. And that means I get to share my screen again. And we can move on to the next item here, which is the curve warning signs on Pavian at Laurente. So this location gets quite a bit of attention here from the traffic committee. I'm sure you guys recall we've had several items dealing with parking along Pavian. This is not one of those, though. This request is for a curve warning sign near the intersection of Pavian and Laurente. So you see the intersection of Pavion and Laurente is down here in the dotted orange circle, and just to the north you can see the curve right by the entrance to the school property there. That is the curve we are going to be looking at and considering some curve warning signs for. So here we have a more detailed look at the area. You can see we have a school crosswalk right over here with these triangle icons there. Those indicate that there is an existing school crossing sign at that location. Also here where we have the pentagon symbol is a crossing ahead warning sign. And the circles are for the proposed curve warning sign, which is the first item located right here. Pavion is considered a collector street, so it doesn't have that same basic 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. We have to go out and do the traffic study that establishes the speed limit out here, and that gives us a speed limit of 30 miles an hour, with the exception of it being a 25-mile-an-hour zone when school is in session. Also, we have traffic volumes for Pavion only, and it carries about 2,100 vehicles a day. The collision history from 2017 to 2019 shows 0 collisions in the area of that curve there. So here we have 2 photos that show the curve. This is approaching it from the north side, so we're looking south on Pavion towards the curve. There's the existing school crosswalk and the crosswalk sign. And then this is approaching from the other direction. This is looking north on Pavion. And just off to the left of the photo is the intersection with Laurente. So this is right at the curve there. You can see the existing center line that goes around the curve here in the middle of the street. This is our original request. Again, a very brief request that says on Pavion, just north of Laurente, there is a very sharp curve. It could use some type of advanced warning signs or other curve indicators to be installed on the approaches in both directions. So that is the original request. And we do have our exhibit here showing curve warning signs on the approach on each side of the curve. And that concludes my report, and we can open it up to any commissioner questions.
I have no questions.
My only question is this something that we're doing, or is this a resident requesting this, or I missed that part?
So the text here at the very bottom of the exhibits, this 2-liner comment right here, that is the original request that came in from the resident.
Yeah, I say deny.
Just FYI, just for your information though, we did send postcard notifications out to all homes within 300 feet of the intersection of Pavion and Laurente. So they were given the opportunity to review the documents that we posted online and to submit written comments. And I, at this time, haven't received any. And I'm not seeing any that have come in during the meeting either.
Yeah, I'd be real interested in denying a curve sign.
Okay.
Hopefully there's nothing else to say. Thank you.
Yeah, this almost seems like it's written, in the author's voice, like this is a sharp curve for him. And my only recommendation is if you're going 25, if you're going the speed limit, that curve should be no real surprise. It's not like a hairpin turn or anything like that. So I would deny the curve signs and please drive the speed limit in the neighborhood.
Okay, I have it down that that the committee is going with the denial of this request. All right, and then from that we can move on to the next item, which is parking restrictions for a fire hydrant located at 24251 Barcaro Drive. So I will turn off my screen sharing as soon as the button will show itself, and I can hand it over to Philip.
All right. Do you guys see the screen for my item? Yes.
Looks good.
All right. So this is a vicinity map. It's near Alicia Parkway and Geronimo Road. We were having that discussion earlier. If you go down Geronimo Road and you enter into the neighborhood off of Cordillera Drive, you're going to run into Barcaro Drive. And Barcaro Drive is a cul-de-sac street, and it's shown here with the red arrow. It shows the location of Barcaro Drive. It's a residential street, 25 miles per hour, no traffic volume data available, and there were 0 reported collisions. What's being asked is a parking restriction in front of the fire hydrant, or specifically a red curb. That's what's being asked here. And this is an aerial exhibit of Barcaro Drive. There's a cul-de-sac, a normal residential street, houses on both sides, parking on both sides. There's a existing fire hydrant in front of 24251, and they are asking for red curb paint in front of the fire hydrant. Even on this aerial, it looks like there's a car parked in the red area, red line right by the fire hydrant. So that's what they're asking for. This is my street view photo. I actually took this particular photo earlier today. So this is the house 24251. There's a fire hydrant right in front of the house. They're asking for red curb adjacent to the fire hydrant. Should be 15 feet in each direction. 15 feet to the left is their driveway, basically. So they're asking for 15 feet to the right. That's basically what the request is. The bottom photo here is if you're coming down Barcaro. I took this photo a couple of weeks ago. As you can see on this photo, the fire hydrant is a little bit hidden because there's a couple of cars parked in front of the fire hydrant, actually. So that's the photo from a couple of weeks ago. And then this photo is also from a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm standing on the opposite end of Barcaro Drive. I'm standing on the cul-de-sac. As you can see, the fire hydrant on the very small yellow there. And then there are garbage cans. And then there's the white car that's parked within the fire hydrant zone. And you can see from this photo as well, there is a high parking demand in the cul-de-sac, as there's a lot of on-street parking here. And then I did conduct a parking survey, and I divided the parking spaces up into, one letter per home, basically per parcel. I did 2 observations. One was on September 1, which was a Tuesday, and 8 in the morning. That's where the car was parked in front of the fire hydrant. And then I did 2 more observations today, actually. One at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then one at 12 noon. There weren't any cars parked in front of the fire hydrant today, but the other locations within the cul-de-sac, sections B, C, D, E, F, G, as shown on the exhibit, there was a range from 0 to 2 cars parked there. So that's the results of the parking survey. And then this is a little bit closer aerial or street view photo that I took. If we were to put a parking restriction, we have the option to do a red curb. We have the option to do no stopping anytime signs. We have the option to keep it existing, and request the Orange County Sheriff's Department for parking enforcement on fire hydrants. Or the fourth option is we can do all of the above. We could paint it red curb and add signage. Just to remind everyone, when you have a fire hydrant, you're not supposed to park there within 15 feet, whether there's a red curb or a sign. That's enforceable today. This is the California Vehicle Code. It's a 22514. It says you can't park in front of a fire hydrant 15 feet in each direction. So every driver is supposed to know this because it's part of the driving test. So if you drive a car, you should know that. And that's the end of my presentation. I did send out postcard notifications for this item, and I didn't receive any comments. So I'm open to answering any questions you guys might have.
Oh, Philip, I got a question. Is the applicant, is that what we call him, the applicant, or the person that is requesting this? Is that his house?
Yes, that's correct.
I don't have strong feelings, but I say deny. I think leave it like it is. I mean, that's the way it is on most of our fire hydrants, is that you know the rules. You're not supposed to park in front of them. And I think that kind of mucks things up, putting a red curb in front of, even if it's his house. I don't think that sounds good. And signs sound even worse. I would, I don't have strong feelings about it, but I think leave it as it is.
Okay.
Agreed. Option 1 sounded like a good idea. Give them the speed dial for the sheriff's department and have parking enforcement go out and hammer that area. And I would agree that a lot of those neighborhoods, especially the older neighborhoods, are getting a lot of rentals, a lot of parking issues. But if the sheriff's department doesn't know about it, then the problem's not there. Squeaky wheel. So he's got to, keep calling, and some people got to get some tickets.
Okay. Thank you for the. All right. Thank you for the comments. Anybody else have any comments? Deputy Coleman, Rich, you guys have any comments? No comments. Okay. I did hear that you wanted them to call the sheriff's department. Deputy Coleman, do you have the sheriff's department number where they could call when they want parking enforcement in front of a fire hydrant? Do you have that number?
Yes, sir. It's going to be the non-emergency line, so it's going to be area code 714-647-7000. And they'll be able to dispatch a parking enforcement over there.
All right. Thank you for that. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you, guys.
All right. So Philip, I see that you're up next on the centerline stripe item too, right?
Yes. Hold on first. Give me 1 second.
All right. Then in that case, the next item is the removal of centerline striping on De La Luna Drive. And Philip will be presenting that one as soon as he has his exhibits ready.
Okay. Do you guys see my exhibits? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I want to give a heads up. I received a lot of comments for this item, so bear with me on this one. So this is the vicinity map. This is on the southern end of town near Marguerite and Avery. If you head east on Avery Parkway, this is the Cordova community, I believe, near the Arroyo Trabuco Golf Club. There's a street, De La Luna and La Quila Lane. And let me explain what's going on here. There was an existing center line there. We are currently resurfacing the street. When we resurface the street, we put the asphalt down first, and then we put the striping back. While we were resurfacing the street, we received a couple of calls from residents to indicate that they don't want the center line returned. So we have to go through the traffic committee if we want to remove the center line. So it's existing today, and they're asking for it to be removed. So I want to make that very clear. It's a residential street. We don't have any traffic volumes available. There were 0 reported collisions in the past 3 years. Okay. This is an aerial view from Google. This is De La Luna. It's the middle street. On the top end, it's De La Luna Drive. The bottom part of the street is La Quila Lane. It's the same street, just 2 different names when it hits the horizontal curve. There's houses on both sides, parking on both sides, and there's a downhill towards the horizontal curve from De La Luna Drive. So this is a street view photo. So I'm going to explain this really quick. This top photo is if you're going down De La Luna Drive. This is what it looked like before we did the resurfacing. This is about 2 or 3 months ago. This is a Google photo. You can see the center line right before the horizontal curve. Today, this is what it looks like. So you can see the new asphalt we put on there, and we currently have markers on the street where the center line was. So that's the next phase of the resurfacing project, is to put the center line back. But we received a couple of calls of residents requesting not to put it back. Okay, so that's the current request. This top photo, now you're coming from the opposite direction, La Quila Lane. So as you're going up La Quila Lane, there's the center line there, and then the curve bends to the left. So this is what it looked like 2 or 3 months ago. This bottom photo is what it looks like today. Again, new asphalt. There's no center line, but there are markers on the road where it used to be. Okay. So this is an aerial that shows the request to remove the existing center line. So the center line goes over about 2 or 3 houses today. It's intended to navigate the cars in the correct side of the road when they're traveling through the horizontal curve. So we received 4 comments. I'm going to read it really fast. The first comment is from Mr. Raul Navarro. I live in the corner of De La Luna and La Quila. When the road was repaved and the yellow center line was not put back, cars have been flying down the street, taking the corner turn on the opposite side of the road. I have 2 children, 4 and 2 years old. My wife, Taryn, is 8 months pregnant. We have multiple families with children that live in this neighborhood, and to remove the center line will increase speed and driving on the wrong side. This is a hazard in a small residential neighborhood, especially when the high school students return to school. The traffic in the morning and evening picks up drastically. Last thing we need is for teenagers speeding around the corner that can potentially lead to an accident. So that was the first comment. The second comment it's a lot longer, so it's on 2 pages. So from Mr. Scott Robertson. To whom it may concern, my name is Scott Robertson. I have lived at 26632 La Quila for the last 22 years. I'm writing this in favor of keeping the center line striping in place, as I feel it has made this location safer for all residents and visitors. Prior to the center line installation, it was common occurrence for, and it goes to the next page, for me to see vehicles taking this turn, which is blind at the bottom of a steep hill at unsafe speeds, many times crossing in oncoming traffic. I had witnessed multiple car collisions, near misses of small children, which are abundant in the neighborhood, a dog being run over while being walked on a leash, and multiple verbal, close to physical altercations between negligent motorists and neighbors. In the multiple years the center line has been in place, I no longer see these incidents, nor have I witnessed any negative effect to the financial value or desirability of the properties in its immediate location. In summary, I am in favor of the centerline striping remaining in place at the intersection turn of De La Luna and La Quila. The facts that this is at the bottom of a hill on a blind turn has high student traffic due to its location to Capo High School, and its previous history proves its necessity. I feel removing the centerline striping is unnecessary and will likely result in a negative outcome. So that was the second comment. The third comment is a little bit shorter. It's from Mr. Robert Kerr. We did not receive any notice from the city that our streets was going to be striped. There are no accidents reported. Why are the centerline stripe to be put down? So that's the third comment. And then the last comment we received was from Miss Janice Murphy, to whom it may concern regarding the centerline striping in the Coronado community. No resident received any notice or notices from the city that our small residential streets were to be striped like major thoroughfares. There was no traffic survey done. No traffic accidents, major or minor, were reported. And this strip is lowering the value of the homes in the neighborhood. Why was this center line stripe put down in the first place? I am one of the many upset neighbors, and it would have been nice to receive more than 1 day's notice to respond to notice. I know many of my neighbors who are not able to respond to this notice at this time. So that's the end of the resident comments, and I'm open to answering any questions that the commissioners or staff have.
Philip, how long was the those center stripes on the streets?
You mean the length of the stripe, or how long has it?
No, length of time. How long have they been there?
That's a good question. Traditionally, we resurface our streets once every 7 years. However, I coordinated with our inspector, and he informed me that we skipped one of those cycles because the pavement conditions were good, so it didn't need to be resurfaced. So I've been here at the city for 12, 13 years, and as for my recollection, that's always been there. So it's been there at least 12 or 13 years. I don't know if maybe Rich, he's been here longer. Maybe Rich can provide more information on when it was installed or how long it's been there.
Yeah, we don't have any records of when it was installed, so we assume it's been there for a considerable amount of time. And the way it's come about is there's actually 4 of them in the neighborhood. And so we resurfaced the street. We were getting ready to put it down. Then I got a call from a guy saying, hey, I don't want that stripe being put back. And so I asked Philip to research, well, did we put it, we usually, they're not there unless somebody requested it at some point in time. So we researched it and we couldn't find any records. So, it may have been in there, it could have been there 20 years, who knows? But it was kind of speak now or forever hold your peace. So I'm either going to put it back in or leave it off. Obviously, because we put it back in, we don't want to take it out because we've got the sandblasting out. So now's the time to decide whether or not to leave it off permanently or put it back like it was before. Typically, we always put them back. However, in this particular case, since the resident said he didn't want it, and he said a number of his neighbors didn't want it, I said, fine by me. We'll take it to the traffic committee and let them decide whether we should put it back or not.
All right, I would like to see it just remain. It's been there for a bunch of years, and as soon as we don't put it back and something happens, we're going to have a can of worms on our hands. I would like to see it just returned back the way it was. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm just looking at a satellite image, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it looks like that whole track, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's other curves, and it also has that striping. Did you see that when you were driving that track, or do we know that? Would this be one curve out of, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we're talking about?
Yes, that's correct. All of the other horizontal curves in the neighborhood have a yellow centerline stripe. And
Yeah, so I mean, we got to keep it consistent. You can't have one out of 4 not have it, and I would deny the request to have it removed, and I would leave it the same to remain consistent throughout the entire track there.
okay. All right. Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Deputy Coleman, Brett, do you guys have any comments? No. All right. Sounds like we're going to keep the center line stripe as it is, and we'll inform our inspector to put it back how it was before.
Yeah, my only addition to that conversation is I'm actually a graduate of Capistrano Valley High School, and I'm pretty sure those lines were there when I was there, and I was class of '97. So yes, those center lines have been there for a considerable amount of time.
Brett, you're revealing your age by telling us your graduation year.
It's not something I'm ashamed of, so I'm okay with it.
All right. Okay.
I think it's a little weirder that he remembers whether the stripe was there.
I was one of the kids that was picked up by my mom in that neighborhood, so it's a long tradition of those kids getting picked up in that neighborhood there. But yeah, I just remember from being out there as often as we were.
All right. Okay.
All right, I was just finishing up my notes on this so I can write the minutes for this meeting later this week. All right, so that concludes our discussion items. The last item is our updates. So this is an opportunity for the commissioners to request any updates of staff or any future committee items we should consider. I hear Dave's got something he wants to talk about.
Yeah, if we could do like some kind of analysis on the intersection of Alicia Geronimo. Seems like we're always having some accident there. It's the number one. I believe it's the number one most accidents in Mission Viejo are at that intersection. And I think it was a couple of years ago, and I could be wrong, that we added an extra turn lane, or 2 turn lanes. And I could be wrong. I could be thinking of the different intersection. But let's just look at it, or have someone that does this, all the time, and they can say, "Hey, your yellow is way too short on this," or "You shouldn't have two left-hand turn lanes," or the syncing is off or something. For one intersection to have as many problems as that one does, I think it warrants us to really look at it and see what is the common denominator. Are most of them speeding? Are most of them left turns? Are most of them rear endings because it's too long? Anyways, I think it would be a fun one for us to examine at a future traffic committee or commission meeting. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, we could definitely do that. We'll include that as maybe as an agenda item for our next traffic committee meeting. We'll review the collision history for that intersection, maybe in the past 3 or 4 years, and put some data together that we could present to the traffic committee with some exhibits. We could definitely do that. Does anybody else have any updates?
I just want to add to Dave's request, because that's going to be a tough one. That intersection has historically had issues, but in the meantime, I want to praise the efforts of our motor officers that are out there on Alicia. I've seen them, And it makes the hair stand up on my arms when I drive down Alicia and I see 2 or 3 cars pulled over. That is the only way to slow people down, is enforcement. And maybe in the meantime, as this study's brewing, Deputy Coleman, maybe you could throw it out to the LT. And I've seen some other cities do this where they get a day or two, a task force where they get other cities, they invite other motor officers from, Irvine, from wherever, and we repay the favor later. And you have about 15 motor cops line up down Alicia and just start fanging people on Alicia. I know for a fact, and I would testify anywhere, that as you drive down Alicia and you approach that area, as soon as I see a deputy or other people see you guys, they're on the brakes. So you guys are making a tremendous impact. And if we can have some sort of impact enforcement in that area, but do something different outside the box where we get additional motors. Philip, I don't know if Mission Viejo does OTS grant or not, but maybe there's some overtime available for deputies to where they can just sign up for overtime shifts to go work enforcement at some of those problem spots through OTS or through any other, grant funded situations. But that, I think if you Google that intersection, I think it was top 10 in the state at one time as one of the most dangerous intersections. Don't quote me on that, but I remember researching and I remember seeing something like that. So, I'm really happy that Commissioner Leckman brought that up, because that's what public safety is all about, is identifying these problems and coming up with a solution, in this case, a non-traditional solution. And, hopefully that can help. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah.
I just want to add, I love that idea, and I don't know if Deputy Coleman has done that, but I've never heard of such a thing. But I think what a great idea to get a few different departments, and then what an image that would be for our residents and people that just pass through our town to go, what is going on? What are all these motor cops up and down the street? And it really, and then you do it to another city, not just ours. You guys would go over to another city, and it just is an impact that would be something that they would go home and go, you see all the cops on Alicia yesterday? And I mean, you only have to do that once a quarter, and people will remember it all year. Love the idea. Love it.
Okay. Yeah, no, we could definitely look into the OTS grants, Office of Traffic Safety, and see if there's any opportunities there. That's something we could look at. And then I don't know about the idea to have a lot of motor cops there. I don't know what the resource is, or do you have any comments for that request, Deputy Coleman?
No, I mean, it's something we can definitely ask about. We got a lot of motors on this side of the freeway. Mission Viejo in particular, they had 3. One of them was on a workers' comp, who's not expected to return, so it went down to 2. And then they recently brought on myself and Deputy Vago, so now Mission Viejo is up to 4. The overflow, the bombardment, it's a good idea. It sounds good. I know other agencies have used that for street racing. They comprise a bunch of different agencies, and then when they have these big street racing events, they take over the entire street and they just start pulling people over left and right and taking cars. I think it's a good idea. The only thing I would think about is, with that particular area, anything past Via Linda, there's not really a good place to set up. So we can have like a rotating, hey, I get one, then the guy behind me gets one. It'll be a nonstop thing where people are going to see a bunch of motor officers stopping cars, which I think would deter a lot of people. But as far as places to get coverage for Geronimo, it's hard. It's a hard spot. I've even tried to sit there at the gas station and get people coming around the corner, and they're coming around so fast I can't even lock a speed on them. We have to get them further east before they get to that intersection, or on the other side of the railroad overpass down by Poe. But it kind of defeats the purpose of stopping them before they reach the intersection where we're having the problems. But Sergeant Merrill, I can extend a request to him or the traffic office for the OTS grant. I knew we're coming up on a new grant cycle here, so there should be something. I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get something situated.
I got a question for. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to comment that, whatever's safest for the the motor officers. But I would imagine beyond speed, there's some other factors out there. I think that Commissioner Leckness was pointing out, whether it's turning movements, whether it's people on cell phones. I was a part of an operation years ago where we just did Beach Boulevard and we wrote everything. But the comment was like, oh my God, Beach Boulevard looked like a Christmas tree. There were so many, cars pulled over. And, in one day's time, just to give you guys an idea, there was like 150 tickets written in one day, that definitely sends a message that we take this seriously. And, so I just throw that out there.
One thing, a different subject to Deputy Coleman. I've seen on YouTube this a couple times over in Laguna Niguel. These kids are doing this. I don't know what you call it. Probably donuts in an intersection. They kind of take over an intersection and do these donuts. I've noticed in my neighborhood up on Felipe and Athens that there's some markings there and another one further down. Have you seen an increase in this? And what would residents do if they see this? If there's anything you could do other than, I suppose, call 911. Any comments on that?
I mean, we deal with that quite a lot. So before I came, I started off in the city of Laguna Hills, and we had a big problem with street racers and people doing donuts, and especially over in Aliso Viejo. Pardon me, let me turn this radio down. The hard thing about these guys that are doing the donuts and reckless driving type activities is they're in and they're out. So by the time somebody calls, we get there, yeah, we see all the destruction from the tires and the donuts, but there's no cars to be seen. Lake Forest has a huge problem with this same situation because they have a bunch of business districts that are empty at nighttime, so people constantly call. I mean, if we see them, if we find them, awesome. We take their car, gets impounded, they get a misdemeanor citation for reckless driving. 30 days worth of impound fees would definitely deter somebody from continuing that type of behavior. But it's actually catching them when it's happening is the issue.
Okay. Thanks for your comments. Did anybody else have comments?
I don't have any more updates at this time.
Okay. I actually have a very quick update. It's a receive and file, but I still have to present it formally to the traffic committee meeting. If you bear with me, I have a very quick presentation to show you guys. So I'm sharing my screen now. Can you guys see that? So, yes. Okay. So, Community Development Manager Elaine Lister sent me a follow-up email recently. She said for the July Planning and Transportation Commission, Vice Chairman Reish, he shared his concerns about one of the agenda items, which is a planned sign permit for the Mosaic apartments. I don't know if you guys recall that agenda item, but Commissioner Reish's comments was, there's concern that they're proposing 6 illuminated posts on Felipe Road, which may distract motorists and may cause additional accidents. And he wanted additional traffic reports, and he wanted to send this request to the traffic committee. So Director Lister sent this information to me. So this is the Mosaic apartment homes application. It's on Felipe and Camden. This is what the application looked like. It was a couple of monuments that were going to be installed in the unsignalized driveway off of the Mosaic apartments. So this is what the signpost looks like. And I don't know if you guys recall, this is from the July Planning Commission meeting. So I did my research for the intersection of Felipe and Camden near Mosaic Apartments. So this is just for information purposes. I went back 3 years, 2017, 2018, 2019. I did find 3 collisions in 2017, 2 collisions in 2018, and then 1 collision in 2019. They are at various locations of that intersection, which not necessarily next to the unsignalized location where the signs are being posted. So for 2019, there was one reported collision. It was a broadside type collision. For 2018, there were 2 reported collisions. One's a side swipe, one's a broadside. And then in 2017, there were 3 reported collisions. And there was a broadside, a stop sign, and a signal collision. So that's the result of the research that I did for that intersection. I'm going to put this together, and I'm going to send a memo just back to Director Lister, and I'm going to inform her that we presented this information to the traffic committee, and that takes care of her request, basically. So just wanted to present that information to you guys because Vice Chairman Reish wanted us to report what the traffic data was for this intersection. And that concludes my my update. Did you guys have any questions at all? Nope. Okay. All right. So that's it for me. That was my update. Does anybody else have any updates? Nope.
All right, then if that is all, we can call this meeting adjourned at 4:42. And we will see you next time. Next meeting is on, it'll be the October meeting. So October 19th, Monday at 3.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. All right. Bye.
All right.